The son of sharecroppers, born in Troy, Alabama, our next honoree was determined to challenge the segregation laws of our country. As chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, he organized student sit-ins at the very height of the civil rights struggle, fighting beside Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. His accomplishments represent a true profile in courage. Please direct your attention to the screens.
Growing up in rural Alabama during the 40s and the 50s, we grew up in two different worlds. It was a white world and a black world. I saw segregation, I saw racial discrimination. I tasted the bitter fruits of racism. I saw those signs that said white men, white women, colored women. I saw something that I didn't like. I saw something that I felt was that was wrong. And we had to do something about it.
In 1955, when John Lewis was 15 years old, he found a vehicle for change. His name was Martin Luther King, Jr.
I heard his voice. I heard the words that he was speaking, and I knew then he was speaking to me and speaking for so many others.
That we will not take it any longer.
During the late 50s and the early 60s, after we went through nonviolent training, a nonviolent workshop, a seminar, young people, young students, black and white, will go downtown and sit in at a lunch counter in a restaurant in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion. And you'll be sitting there, quiet, waiting to be served. And a group of people will come up, pull you off the lunch counter stool, or put lighted cigarettes out in your hair or down your back, beat you. As a group of people who have been schooled in the philosophy and the discipline of nonviolence, you come to that point where you accept the philosophy of nonviolence as a technique, not simply as a tactic, but as a way of life, as a way of living. And you lose your sense of fear, and you make up your mind that you're not going to become bitter, hostile, or angry with anyone. And you're not going to get lost in a sea of despair. You see the opposition as being victims also of a system, victims of customs and tradition. So in our struggle, we were not out to defeat a person or defeat a group of individuals. We were out to change customs, tradition. We wanted to create something that we call the beloved community, an interracial democracy.
It was this belief in democracy that motivated John Lewis and the others in the movement to test the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court banning segregation in areas of public transportation, an effort which became known as the Freedom Ride. The Freedom Ride became a dangerous journey. Many of the activists were attacked and beaten by groups of angry white men. Some, including John Lewis, were later jailed. But the movement could not be stopped. The commitment to a common goal of righting the wrongs of segregation and racism prepared John Lewis and others for their biggest fight, the Voting Rights Act.
In a city like Selma, Alabama in 1965, it was almost impossible for people of color to be able to register to vote. People had to take a so-called literacy test. They could only attempt to register on the first and third Mondays of each month. And all across the South, people have been beaten, harassed, jailed. Some people have been shot and killed for attempting to register to vote.
Provoked by the murder of activist Jimmy Lee Jackson during an attempt to register black voters, the largest civil rights organizations decided to stage a massive march from Selma to Montgomery to dramatize to the nation and to the world that people wanted to register and vote. The demonstration took place on March 7, 1965.
And we decided to walk in an orderly, peaceful fashion. That it would be a silent protest. We thought we would be arrested. And we continued to walk, and we came to the apex of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, crossing the Alabama River. We saw a sea of blue, Alabama state troopers. And we walked and walked We came within hearing distance of the state troopers, and a man identified himself and said, "I am Major John Cloud of the Alabama State Troopers. This is an unlawful march and it will not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your church." In less than a minute and a half, he said, "Troopers, advance." They came toward us, beating us with nightsticks and bullwhips, trampling us with horses, and releasing the tear gas.
I was beaten by a state trooper, knocked to the ground, and I was in the hospital from Sunday until about an hour ago. Right now I'm feeling quite exhausted, weak, and a few pains in the head. Quite a few other people are still in the hospital, suffering from broken legs, broken arms, and skull fractures.
Bloody Sunday was one of the most devastating moments in the short history of the civil rights movement, but at the same time, it was also a turning point. The nation had seen what had happened in Selma and was shocked by its own self-hatred. Events on that Bloody Sunday in Selma pushed Congress to pass the Voting Rights Act and other historic civil rights legislation.
And we shall overcome.
The movement continued amidst the turbulent years of the middle 60s. In April of 1968, the movement and America faced tragedy. While supporting a strike in Memphis, Tennessee, Martin Luther King Jr. was shot to death outside his hotel room.
Martin Luther King Jr. was the embodiment, he was the personification of an idea, the idea of the beloved community, a community at peace with itself. This man had the capacity to bring people together, blacks and white, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, young and old, rich and poor. If it hadn't been for Martin Luther King Jr. preaching the philosophy and the discipline of nonviolence, maybe our country could have been like Lebanon or Northern Ireland or someplace. I think his message of hope, of love, of nonviolence saved America.
After years working as an activist in both the public and private sector, John Lewis turned to politics. In 1986, he won a seat in the House of Representatives, where he sits today.
I saw my involvement in politics as an extension of my involvement in the civil rights movement. I don't see it as a great leap, as a great step. I see it as a continuation. You pace yourself for the long haul, keeping in mind that the struggle is not a struggle that lasts for one day, 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year, but it is a struggle of a lifetime to build a beloved community, to build a truly interracial democracy. And I think the day must come in America when we realize and know as a people that just maybe we all came over here in different ships, but we're all in the same boat now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman John Lewis.
I want to thank the Center and the Museum of Tolerance for this great honor. We have come a distance, but we still have a distance to go before we lay down the burden of race, the burden of hate, the burden of intolerance, the burden of racism, and the burden of anti-Semitism. But we must never, ever give up, or give in, or give out. We must keep the faith and keep our eyes on the prize. And we will, because we have a mission, a mandate, and a moral obligation to build the beloved community, a world community at peace with itself. Thank you very much.